Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I just thought I'd start off this video by saying thank you so much to all of my 330 subscribers. I'm so happy that you guys decided you wanted to subscribe to my content, and I really hope that you're going to enjoy it. So first things first, I thought that we could visit Auditing 101 today, right? So I did mention in my last video that a lot of students struggle with auditing because of the fact that it's so abstract, and because they don't really know what's going on half the time. So I thought, what better way to solve that problem than to have a mini video on why audits are performed. Why do you have to take this course for almost half of your degree, and why is it important for you to understand it? So that's what my video is going to be about today. Right, so let's get into it. So first things first, why do we audit? What is the purpose of an audit? You guys are accountants. I'm sure you just want to number crunch half the time. And here's this theoretical subject that makes no sense that you now have to make sure that you understand. Well, let's think a little bit about why you, or the financial accounting aspect of your degree. So you go into that subject and you learn how to account for different transactions, right? Depending on the nature, or however else you decide on the accounting treatment of certain transactions. And then you present this lovely set of financial statements. Now, in order for your users to be able to use that to make decisions, such as, say, for example, investors that decide whether or not this company would be a great company to invest into, they need to get assurance over the fact that the financial numbers that they see are actually fair and represent what's actually going on in the business. So if you think about the actual textbook definition of why we perform an audit, it says something to the tune of to obtain reasonable assurance of the fact that there are no material misstatements in the financials. It's just a fancy way of saying that we are trying to give credibility to the numbers that you see so that whoever needs to use them can actually rely on them. Now, what type of credibility? Are the auditors saying that the numbers are 100% fine? That is not what they're saying, and that is why we speak of reasonable assurance within auditing. The auditors do not give absolute assurance because they do not audit everything. So they cannot then come in and say that everything is fine. We know that all is good, so you can 100% rely on these numbers. But they actually say, look, according to the work that we've done, to the best of our ability, you can actually conclude that these numbers really do reflect what's happening on the ground in the business. And that is how your businesses or your investors would then be able to make decisions. Now, how does the auditor go about this? It's not just a gut feel where they tell the users that no, you can rely on these numbers. They actually have to put in a lot of work. So the audit standards speak of sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, and that is what the auditor then needs to do. Sufficient in that they have to get enough evidence to support this opinion that they're saying, where they say that the financials actually reflect what's happening on the ground, and appropriate in the sense that it must be the right type of evidence that they're getting to actually support this audit's opinion that they're giving. So that is, in short, why you have to go through this module, to then say you've gone through the other side of understanding how to account for the transactions. There's then also the other side where someone independent of the preparation of the financials process that then comes in and says, look, we've looked at the numbers and we're actually happy with what we're seeing. So then, with that said, why do we have the different stages and how do they tie into this thing that we're now talking about? So what you'll then appreciate about auditing is that it's a very process-based process, right? Process-based process. So what happens is that there are certain steps that you need to follow in terms of the ISAs about how you then end up getting this evidence. That would include, amongst other things, how do you accept this audit engagement? How do you then decide that you're going to take on this client and you're going to give credibility to the numbers that they have prepared? There's a whole standard, or actually a bunch of standards that deal with how audit firms need to go about deciding on this process. How do you then, after you've accepted the audit engagement, how do you then start planning? How do you decide where you're going to focus your attention? How do you assess the risk of where the most risk is likely to be in terms of your financials, so that when you're then performing your sufficient and appropriate gathering of evidence, you then actually go to the right place and do the right thing, so that at the end of the day you can be happy with the opinion that you provide. So in short, that's basically what happens. And then you get into when you then start gathering your audit evidence, and that's your modules later on, like, understanding, for example, how your controls work as part of your planning process. And then as part of your gathering your audit evidence, you can then test these controls to make sure that you get this audit evidence that you require. And then you can also then perform substantive procedures on the actual numbers that have been presented in the audit, or rather in the financial statements. And then following that, the auditor then has a basis to support the audit opinion that they're going to give, be it that they say that the financials are actually reflective of what's happening on the ground, or if they have another conclusion, such as maybe them saying, what's happening in the financials and what's actually happening down the ground is not the same thing. So you must run from this company if you're planning on investing, because it's actually reflective of a much deeper problem if you think about it, right? So if the company has no way of accounting what really happens on the ground, that is red flags, because it means that they don't have internal controls that allow them to be able to track and flag any issues with regard to financial reporting as a process. So yeah, I think in short, that's what it is. I know that the textbook is very technical in the way that it describes it, but at the end of the day, you're really just trying to get or the auditors are just trying to make the numbers credible. They are saying to you, as the users of the financials, you can actually trust these numbers because we've looked at them, and we've looked at them properly, or to the best of our ability. And yeah, that's that, guys. I hope to see you on my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.